During the rise of America's auto industry, Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City itself, was also known as a center for popular music. Jazz acts like Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, and later on rockers like Detroit's own MC5 and the Stooges were all regular features at the city's legendary ballrooms. Built in the 1920s with a distinct Aztec theme, the Vanity Ballroom was at the heart of Jefferson-Chalmers, a working-class African-American neighborhood on Detroit's Lower East Side. But as the fortunes of Detroit declined, so did those of the Vanity and the neighborhood around it.
So, behind me is the Vanity Ballroom, been abandoned about 30 years.
This is Joshua Elling. He's executive director for Jefferson East Incorporated, a nonprofit working to revitalize neighborhoods along Detroit's east side.
It was back during the automotive boom, back when Detroit had 2 million people, this was the center of jazz and blues entertainment for the Lower East Side of Detroit. And as the automotive jobs left, as people moved to the suburbs, there was just less of a demand for that, less of a market for that, and these buildings fell in disrepair.
Since 1950, the peak of the auto boom, almost 1.2 million residents have left Detroit. That's a loss of about 64%.
But what's fascinating about Detroit and what's fascinating about the East Jefferson corridor, you still have these just pockets of incredibly low density, right? So you can see where the abandonment of Detroit over the years sort of manifests itself. But then, if you turn over onto the right side here, building being renovated into a new brewery, new retail going in. So it really is still a mixed tapestry, if you will.
As a part of their model, Jefferson East acquires historic buildings on Detroit's east side, then, working with other partners, restores them for affordable housing and community-driven business.
When I started in 2007, this building was 3 walls. It was completely collapsed. Now housing 49 mixed-income units, 80% affordable, 20% market rate, as well as providing a ground floor retail space, a dress shop, a furniture restoration company, a coffee shop, and a record store.
In addition to restoring old buildings, another priority has been making sure the new business owners coming in have what they need for success. Almost 3 years ago, Nikita Wesley and her sisters opened Red Bag Boutique across the street from the Vanity Ballroom. She says working with Jefferson East and other community partners has made a difference.
They helped us with a lot, a lot, about getting our business started and whatnot. Because we even think about trying to get online to get a website so we could be international also.
In the Kresge building, a former Five and Dime acquired by Jefferson East, local chef Gary Alma is working to build out his first restaurant.
Gary had to put together, stacks of $300,000 to $500,000 to finance their build out. So we do the exterior, get in here. But because they have a nonprofit partner that owns the building, they're much more likely to receive those resources.
In Detroit, as with other cities in the U.S., the restoration of historical buildings can qualify for local, state, and federal development grants, such as Michigan's Motor City Match, tax breaks, like the Federal Historic Tax Credit, and also encourage philanthropic donations as well as bank financing. This stacking of incentives can be crucial for aging cities like Detroit.
Detroit has over 300,000 existing buildings. 97% of those are 50 years old or older, and 2/3 of them were built before World War II.
David J. Brown is Executive Vice President and Chief Preservation Officer for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. He says restoring areas like Jefferson-Chalmers have a value beyond the historical.
And so for every dollar of federal tax money that is spent through the historic tax credit, we're seeing $1.25 come back into the local, state, and federal tax coffers. They're using local workers, local materials, and doing that work. And so it's an economic engine that really helps a local community grow.
Because what you don't want to see happen is in some of these neighborhoods, new shops open up and none of the jobs go to local residents. That builds resentment, it builds a narrative of gentrification, it feeds into the narrative of the two Detroits, the downtown Detroit for wealthy folks and the rest of the city.
Because of its rich cultural history, the National Trust named Jefferson-Chalmers to be a national treasure in 2016. It was the first such designation in the state of Michigan.
It's up and coming. It's up and coming, so I wouldn't trade for it, not even a place in the mall. It's very nice here.
What I really admire is the spirit of the people who are wanting to see their city come back and are making that investment day after day.
And as for the fate of the Vanity Ballroom?
The community really wanted to see the ballroom brought back as some sort of public use. So ground floor retail, second story, bring back some sort of community space, performance space. So we still have a lot of work to do. We've got it secured right now, but we're still in the active fundraising phase to bring this building back and support our overall project here in Jefferson-Chalmers.